welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Abby, and today I've been inspired by a webcomic. I don't exactly remember when it started, but I have been obsessed with this webcomic platform called Webtoons, and I read a ton of those, one of which has inspired me today. The webcomic that I'm going to take from today is called Hooky, and the reason why I picked it is because the story revolves around two witch twins, and it's October, it's Halloween, it's my favorite time of year. The character that I'm going to do, his name is Carlo. Carlo is a frog-dragon hybrid that Dorian has as one of his companions in this magical world. The reason I picked him is because he's adorable. He's just always been one of my favorite characters in the webcomic universe, which is saying a lot because there's a lot of characters that I would do, only I'm terrible at crocheting people, so I can't do a lot of the comics because a lot of the comics are just people. I mean, even in Hooky, most of the characters are people. Some of them are cool dragon frog hybrids, so that's what we're gonna do today. This isn't gonna even look good, but whatever. I did a post-it that is going to be basically the breakdown for all of the pieces for Carlo. I'm thinking I'm gonna stick pretty close to that. So without much more rambling, let's crochet. I just got a new camera, so I hope that the quality looks a lot better during these time-lapse sections. It should be for the 76 gigs that is taken up on my computer. I want to mention really quick that I am in no way sponsored by Webtoons. I just really love their platform. But if they wanted to sponsor me, I'd be down. I wish I were talented enough to make my own comic to go on there, but I've tried doing comics before and they are super hard for me. Not to mention, you know what my upload schedule looks like, and people don't like waiting a month for one episode. Trust me. Crocheting is definitely more my medium. Hooky was actually one of the first webtoons I ever read, so I kind of feel attached to it. I mean, how could I not like stories about witches when I own a black cat? I don't even know if that's logical. If you like fantasy stories about witches, far-off kingdoms, and some love triangles, you will most likely love this comic. There are over 200 episodes out as I'm recording this that you can binge read. I don't really want to go much further into the story because I don't want to spoil anything, but I would say it's worth a read, even if you only just want to check it out. You might get super addicted like I am. Talking about the story though got me interested in the origins of witches. I realized that I didn't really know where the folklore of witches came from, and so I was kind of interested since I was talking about it so much. So I read a couple of different sources on the internet, and it seems like it's pretty unclear as to when the folklore really started, but the best guess that I can find is that the whole idea of witches stemmed from women who healed people using natural remedies. In the 1400s, Europe was massively Christian, and witches were most likely people not of the Christian faith, believed to be doing the devil's work. It's believed that the book Malleus Maleficarum is the main reason that witch hysteria spread so quickly. And by the way, I don't even know if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. It's possible that I am, but it's probably more possible that I'm not. But basically, this book was written by two Catholic men as sort of a guide to how to torture confessions out of witches and how to possibly treat them. And you can't see my hand quote when I say treat, but I highly doubt there was actually any treating happening. Anyway, because of this book, witch hunts became popular in Europe, and many accused witches were burned at the stake or hanged. The book also labeled all witchcraft as heresy, so it pretty much justified to whoever was doing the torture that it was okay because it was heresy and against the church. At the height of the witch craze in Europe, France and Germany were actually the top two places where witches were hunted, apparently. However, at the decline of the hysteria in Europe, it began to spread like wildfire to the new America. The most famous instance that is still taught in schools today was the Salem witch trials from 1692. I'm gonna pause here really quick and mention that apparently I live next to all the traffic in the world, so I can't possibly edit out all of these car noises. So sorry. Next time I'll record the voiceover in the closet or something. That's what all professional YouTubers do. So at this point, a lot of settlers were already scared of the new diseases and constant threats of invasion that they were getting in this new world. So the atmosphere in these towns was just ready for this brand of craziness. In Salem, Massachusetts, where these witch trials began, 2 girls were exhibiting signs of weird convulsions and spasms, which may or may not have been due to something they ate. We still don't really know. But anyway, it freaked the town out, so they were all fearful of what was happening to these girls, and they eventually got them to accuse 3 women in the town of cursing them. This caused a lot of finger pointing and accusations throughout the town, so pretty much no one trusted each other. And actually, this is one of the first instances that I found where men were also accused alongside the women. This was also around the time where they would do random things to determine if you were a witch or not. Like, one of the ones that I remember was tying someone up and throwing them in a lake to see if they sank or floated to the top. If they drowned, they were innocent, and if they didn't, they were guilty. So the whole thing was a catch-22. Apparently much later, Benjamin Franklin wrote a satirical article about witch trials, and it caused people to realize how ridiculous these accusations were. I haven't personally read it, but it sounds like it might be a good read. I will have to look into that, so don't take that as me saying to go read it. I don't know. Maybe I should have read it before I recorded this. It's too late now. But anyway, not long after he wrote that article, laws were put into place to help protect people from these accusations that were often just crazy. To me, it's super interesting to look at the history because that's what witches were at the time. But then when I think about what I think a witch looks like, it doesn't look like a normal person, at least not a person from the 1600s, because I don't think people from the 1600s wore black pointy hats and long dark robes. So while I was reading all this stuff, I was wondering, where did all of those common symbols that I perceive a witch to look like come from? And so my theory going into it is that with the creation of film came something that I like to call a collective culture, in which we all add stories with little bits of our own culture until we create a collective narrative that becomes widely accepted. So when it comes to witches, I believe that collective narrative has been created as a caricature of a creature so that it can be recognizable to the masses. So I took a stroll through the internet, looking to find some old films involving witches, and I came across a film that I believe has caused this whole classic look for us today. Now, I can be wrong, and if you find more information, feel free to leave some in the comments below, because this stuff really interests me. But the movie that I think has the most iconic witch is The Wizard of Oz from 1939. Now, let me explain that. So, the Wicked Witch of the West is portrayed in this film as having a big pointy hat, long dark robes, an interesting voice choice, can fly in a broomstick, and has that green skin that's still widely used today in costumes. So I'd have to admit, it's not the earliest film involving a witch, but I think it might be the most influential. And honestly, the more I look into the film and how she acts in it and how she looks in it, the more I think she must be the quintessential classic witch. Of course, nowadays, witches can be portrayed in various ways with a lot of different costume choices. However, there's still that classic look that you see everywhere. Though I will say, I definitely prefer black cats as companions to the witch than the flying monkeys that the Wicked Witch of the West uses in the film. So that was just some stuff that I found, some interesting reads. I have to say that I love looking into the history of things like witches and vampires. Not that I talked about vampires, but I did a whole 2 semesters on the history of vampires and how film adapted them to what we think of today. So I hope you found that somewhat interesting, and I hope you guys have a really good Halloween, like honestly. It's just so interesting how at some point in time, maybe I should have looked this up, but at some point in time, someone came up with the idea that everyone in a neighborhood is gonna be okay with random kids coming to their door and asking for free candy. At some point that made sense. Maybe I should look into that too, because I haven't looked into the history of knocking on doors for free stuff, but that is very interesting to me. So I'll actually look into that, because that intrigues me. You know what I haven't done in a very long time? I have not carved a pumpkin since I was a kid. I'm talking like 10 years ago. That's how long it's been. I've bought pumpkins, but I have not carved them, And every year I think I'm gonna do it, and then I never do it. So I don't know, maybe I should make a video of me carving a pumpkin for the first time in 10 years. Anyway, let me just say, this crochet project I had to restart because the new camera I got did something weird while I was trying to use the time-lapse function, so it took longer than it probably should have. If I had to start over again, I think I would probably make Carlo a little bit chubbier because I think that would make him look more true to some of the original art with him in it. I had changed a couple of things while sewing him together too in an effort to make his feet smaller, so I still have leftover pieces that I'll probably never use. With all that restarting and crocheting things I didn't eventually use means I spent just over 8 hours on this project, which is honestly way too long for something that's supposed to be simple. So yeah, I definitely have to blame me restarting a bunch of times, but I still have 8 hours of footage that I had to sort through for this. But I want to say he turned out all right in the end. Let's move on to the glam shots. So here he is. This is Carlo. As you can see, he's got the dragon wings, he's got the dragon tail, he looks mostly like a frog, and his tongue is sticking out because that's what Carlo pretty much is always drawn as doing. I'm really pleased with how he turned out. He's cute, and he definitely reminds me of the Carlo from the comic because this is a story about witches. Of course, there's a black cat in it. Do you want Carlo? He came in here to bother me. I also want to say that I'm definitely not giving up the 151 crocheted Pokemon challenge. I just wanted a tiny break from it because the last thing that I made was a Pokemon. And it's not that I don't like them, I just kind of wanted a tiny break. And it being October, I felt this was kind of a little bit more October-y. The next thing that I crochet for this channel will definitely be Charmander's evolution. I thank you for your patience because I know I take a really long time to make videos, but I'm working on it. I hope you enjoyed watching me make this little guy, and if you have any other suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in my next video. Bye! Do you remember these? You want to wear them again? You look so good as a bat. Oh, you still don't want to wear costumes, do ya? No? Oh. Okay.